Hello everybody, welcome back to Happy Little Diodes. Today I'm going to show you how to completely clean up the noisy audio that you're experiencing on your grey 128K ZX Spectrum Plus 2. Before we do anything, let's plug this one in and demonstrate the issue. What we're listening for is a background hum coming from the ZX Spectrum's data decoder. I have compressed this slightly to save your eardrums. Sound familiar? It's pretty unmistakable and pretty annoying, so we're going to fix it. Let's start by opening it up. Remember to unplug the power from your machine first. We're going to remove this connector, which is the connector from the data decoder, and open the machine up completely. You're going to want to open it right to left like a book, as I am here, so that you don't damage these ribbon cables. You can remove them one at a time just by gently but firmly giving them a pull and a wiggle. We're not interested in the lower half of the case or the main board, we're interested in this little circuit board here, which is attached to the data decoder. This is the circuit that sends the tape amplifier output to our main board, and so we need to modify it. Let's take a look at our schematic and see what's going on. We're interested in the highlighted area in the red box, so let's zoom in there. Here we can see the cassette deck connector in the bottom right and the ULA in the top left. The tape amplifier output from the data decoder comes in on pin 4 of the cassette deck connector, highlighted yellow, connects almost directly to the ear pin of the ULA. We're interested then in this white wire. We need to disconnect this when the tape deck is not in use and reconnect it when we need to use the tape deck to save or load data. You can achieve this by fitting a switch, but we want it to be automatic, so we're going to use a relay. This is a reed relay, it only has 4 pins, it's very simple to set up and it's going to do the job for us. This relay is going in line along that white wire, and we only want it to switch on when the tape deck is in use. So if we put the DC motor positive and negative across the coil on these 2 pins here, we should have a solution. All we need to do is connect positive to one pin, negative to the other pin, and cut our white wire and put the relay in between the wire and this PCB. Here we can see the red and black wires going to our DC motor. This is what we're going to connect up in parallel with the coil of our relay on these 2 pins. We will then find a neat way to intercept this white wire and put the relay's outer 2 pins in between it and the PCB. Let's remove the PCB and take a look at the other side. There are 2 obvious screws to remove here, and there's a less obvious screw which holds the LED in place on the front of the case. We'll need to remove this because there are 2 wires connecting it to this board. I also noticed with this machine at least, one of these orange wires was trapped underneath the case here, so I need to remove this screw so I can free it up and allow myself to work on the board. Okay, we're in. Lovely. I'm going to desolder a couple of wires to make it easier to work on, so take a picture before you do that. And here we go, we're going to take off this white and red wire. I also desoldered the black wire and tiny little white wire that accompanies it from the bottom right of the board. Didn't film that for some reason. Positive and negative to our DC motor can be found here. There's negative and there's positive. So that's what we need to put in parallel with the coil of our relay. But first, while the board is out, I'm going to replace these capacitors because that's going to need doing anyway. Here's our nice shiny new ones. And there they are in their new home. Right, let's get on with the interesting bit. Let's do this mod. I'm a little bit limited in the choice of colours here because I only have so many wires of this size, but let's use green for the negative supply to the DC motor, which is going to the coil of our relay. I'll strip the end, tinning it, and we'll pop it into a convenient joint. And for the positive side, we're going to use red. I'm going to need to cut these wires down a little bit because I want the relay to sit approximately here on the PCB. I'm going to glue it on there, so let's trim them down and strip these ends. I've opted for a twizzle technique here and then soldering the wires onto the legs, but I think it could be neater, so any ideas, pop them in the comments below. Another question to the experts out there, I'm just gluing it here against the ground plane. Is that bad? Is that a problem? Is it going to cause issues with the relay? It seems to be working alright, but I did have a thought that maybe this wasn't the best idea. It's neat at least. Now we just need to reroute the output through our relay. Let's start by desoldering the white wire from the PCB and attaching it to one of the remaining pins of our relay. Lovely, and finally we need to put a new piece of wire between the final remaining pin of our relay back into this joint from which I removed the white wire. If I could just get all this old solder out. There we are, that'll do. We're going with orangey yellow here because I didn't have any white wires. We'll solder one end onto this leg. Perfect. Okay, looking good. I'm pretty happy with that. Just need to reassemble this board. There's a couple of wires, 4 wires that we desoldered before doing the work, if you recall. And even though I literally only just did this, I do need to refer to the picture to make sure that I'm putting them back in the right place. Here's the black and white wire that I mentioned that I forgot to film. We'll put those back on as well. Don't forget about this little white wire, it does hide away sometimes. Alright, looking good. But I just want to mention the little white and red wires here. These can be a problem if you're finding your games aren't loading and the output is too quiet or noisy. In fact, what you're looking at here, these weren't connected properly. I had to resolder them later. One last job while we're giving the data recorder some love is to replace the 2 belts. There's one small one under here and a larger one on the left there. Don't ask me why it's not in the center of the frame. Finally, let's do some testing. I'll remind you where we were. And here we are after the mod. When we hit play to load the tape, we should hear the noise again. There it is. And the game will load, and when the game is finished loading and the motor stops, the noise will go away again. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that was interesting and or useful. As always, please like, subscribe, please share. and keep an eye out for more videos coming soon.